let's start simply with how did you land in volleyball coaching, and then more specifically, how did you land at Tampa?
This is how I got into volleyball. I grew up in the Virgin Islands on the island of St. Croix, and they actually had a pretty good volleyball league, some really good athletes, and a lot of interest. So my brother went to school at New Mexico State back at the time that Mary Jo Pepler and Marilyn McCreevy were running the pseudo national team out of there. And he played on a men's club team. So they practiced against the women. And so he picked up some pretty good fundamentals, came back home, lived in St. Croix for a little bit after graduation, ran a team, and that was my introduction into volleyball. I wasn't very good. I was a high school kid that was a late bloomer, so nothing really clicked in. But I went into college at Bethany College up in West Virginia because I wanted to try to play football. And after about 6 weeks of that, I realized I wasn't going to really, it wasn't going to be for me. So the volleyball team was starting up, and it was coached by the women's softball coach. And I just kind of asked if I could help out, and went out there and realized that I probably knew as much, and I knew very little. But those were the times when folks were expected to coach multiple sports, and she was the softball coach having to do this. So I stayed at Bethany for a year, and then I transferred to the University of Tampa, and I did it again. I just volunteered to be a student grunt, wiped up floors, carried water bottles, whatever. Got to bang some balls in practice, and then graduated in '83 from the University of Tampa and was an admissions rep. I did that for a year. I traveled around the country recruiting students to UT, and the job opened up here. And I wasn't qualified. I knew that. But I made the trip home from my recruiting trip, met with the athletic director, and just said I would do whatever it takes. And so he gave me the job with the caveat that I had to coach men's and women's tennis. And there was one other category of number 8 on my contract that said do whatever else I expect you to do, which my first job was to clean up after a carnival fundraiser on our fields. I had to have a staff, and it was just, hey, I was willing to do whatever. And so I got my start at my alma mater, obviously, and I got into the sport by playing first, and I continued to play all through college and then after that. But boy, those first, 20 years, I still feel like I'm catching up because I just didn't have that foundation that everybody else had. I didn't work for somebody and learn what to do, what not to do, and so forth. My first real mentor was actually Ari Selinger. We brought him in here in 1985 after that '84 Olympics. We brought him in here for a summer clinic. And it was just 12, 13 high school coaches, myself and Will Navalta. He was from BYU, and we were the only college coaches. And Ari came in here, and it was like a college course. He had his book, his manual, and he just didn't have to be as giving as he was. And he didn't go back to his hotel at night. He said, hey, get some pizza. We'll just hang out. And it was just awesome. So he was my first idol and mentor. Then I had a couple after, like Jim Imes, who was at Georgia. He worked with the national team at one point. Great guy, very, very forthcoming with ideas and information. And then, I spent time just studying coaches that I see them do things well, and I try to adopt those. I think my early success was a combination of blind luck, just getting lucky with some kids. I inherited a couple of kids that were pretty darn good. And then my passion and energy kind of came out, and I was, just a young, aggressive coach who got a lot out of the kids. And as time went on, I didn't really understand how I was successful because I had a couple of years in there where I wasn't. I didn't know how to fix it. So I took a little while of searching myself, and I ended up mimicking and trying to coach like other coaches and realized that wasn't going to work. Went back to being myself. And then I think my real success happened after I was able to add assistant coaches. I had Jeff Revis working for me early on. Then I was able to hire Jeff Lamb, who was my longtime assistant. He's been with me for 20 years. And through my summer camps, which we built up pretty big, I was able to pay him significantly and keep him around. And together we built a pretty good program. We had a long run of 10, 12 years of winning our conference and making it pretty far in the NCAA tournament. And then we broke through in 2006 and realized what we were doing worked. Jeff then had a family and decided to back away briefly. So I hired Brian Imperial, and he was actually hired full-time by the university, but through summer camps, we were able to attract him here from a Division I school. So the three of us together collaborated and created a pretty good group, a pretty good team. And I allowed Jeff to run the offense and Brian to run the defense, and I allowed him to coach. And I got to a point where I was comfortable enough where I could allow someone else to be in charge at times. And I think it's led to some pretty good success. The university has also been amazing. Our facilities are tremendous. Our athletic director, Larry Murphy, has allowed all of our coaches just to kind of run our own business, and it gives us the freedom to do what we need to do. And so it's like all of us. I just lived my job. I spent hours and hours just planning practice and trying to make myself better. Then the kids and wife and kids came along, and then I got more efficient, But again, I've been so passionate about it. I think that a lot of things have been sacrificed, and I thank my wife for the many sacrifices she made raising the kids, and we made it through. And our kids are healthy and psychologically healthy as well. They're not ruined by it. So.
Certainly, when you have the level of national success that you have had, it gives you opportunities to move. Why have you stayed at Tampa all these years?
So the last time I looked was 1995. Let me take that back. The last time I had a real interview opportunity was 1995, and it was at Virginia. This was my second go with Virginia. And the little backstory, our basketball coach here was the assistant at Virginia with Terry Holland. And Craig Littlepage is the athletic director at Virginia. He knew our basketball coach well. So he got me in the door. And my second time through was in 95. And I said, I'm going to do whatever it takes to get this job. I'm just going to lay it out there. Once I got into it, I realized the pay was equal. Actually, at the time, they were paying what I was being paid here at Tampa. They didn't have the summer camp opportunities. And I was a chicken. I was afraid to move. I was, in a place where I was somewhat comfortable. So I didn't make that move. I was coaching club at the time, and I would drive to club practice going, I'm going. And on the way back from club practice, I'm not, and it went on for 5 days like that. Finally, I just said, I can't do it. And I didn't make the move. And I don't regret it. Shortly after that, we had an athletic director from Auburn University, Hyman Wall. He kind of came here, not to retire. He just came here for another experience. And he raved about this Division II atmosphere. And I approached him shortly after the Auburn job opened up. And I said, would you be willing to get me in the door and get me an interview? Because I'll get you all the way up to the AD, but I promise you it's not a better situation. And I said, it's got to be more funding, more. He goes, it's all relative. Division I, Division II. If you're at the top of Division II, it's a good life. If you're at the bottom of Division I, you have more money than that top of Division II, but it's a rough life. And he said, why don't you spend your time developing your summer camps, creating an atmosphere here where you could be here for a long time. And that's what I did. So the final piece to my staying here is financially, this was a much better situation than 90% of the jobs that I would have been able to get. I would not have been able to jump into a Power 5, position. I would have been going mid to low major Division I, working my way up. Here I was already there. I was financially, it was just too good of a situation here. And our camps, we built our camps to a point where, we do 1,500, well, not last summer, but most summers we do 1,500 kids, and it supports myself and my 2 assistants. So this is a really good place in that sense. So. How
much of your success do you attribute to your hard work, and how much of it do you attribute to luck?
I think the hard work produces the luck. If you'd say the situations that become lucky. And so I think the two are combined early on. now I'm at a stage where recruiting is, we all know this, recruiting has become the biggest part of the equation. And some of that is luck. Some of that is hitting the right, right situation at the right time. So I think there's a lot of folks that can coach. And I think it's being proven if you have the players, you don't even have to be at that same coaching level. You can win. You can be up there at the top. And that's at all levels. John Wooden said it, I think, best when he said, the players are more important in the sense than the coaching at times. And those aren't his quoting words, but that's kind of the gist of it. And so luck has been created, I think, by most coaches, including myself, by the time and effort you've put in, quality time that you've put into making this happen. And it's created lucky situations. Years ago, we picked up a young lady named Danielle Selkridge from the Virgin Islands. I didn't know her, but we were from the same area, so that was a good connection. But she just happened to be playing at a tournament in Atlanta, and I spent the entire tournament there watching her play. She was at a stage where she was terrible, but what an athlete, what a kid. And I just stuck it out. She became a National Player of the Year. She was probably the best athlete I've ever been around. And then we lucked out and got Berkeley Whaley, who was a transfer from Florida. She was a Fab 50 kid. And Berkeley had been on our campus with her sister when she was in 8th grade, walked our campus, and we recruited her sister, and it didn't work out. She ended up going to another school. But, that led to Berkeley coming back to us at one point because she liked that visit. Hard work, lucky. I think a lot of it was luck and very situational. So
you've mentioned recruiting as something that has changed in the last 20 years and stuff. What besides that, how has that changed? And besides that, what has changed?
I think Division I all the way down to parts of Division II, through your efforts, the AVCA, a number of coaches, I think salaries have obviously just jumped and blossomed. But with that has come, the pressure of being successful. And I think volleyball squandered for years. We were just, I wouldn't call us insignificant, but people weren't losing jobs over being unsuccessful. The positive thing with that was folks were not making bad decisions, we were treating kids pretty well, I think. And your job just didn't come down to finding that great recruit. You could give them an entire experience and not worry about winning and losing. Now there's so much more tied to it. I see it even in Division II. I see that pressure and some of the decisions that are being made that are, I think, costly. And I think we've had them in Division I more so because there's a lot more money involved and pretty high level stuff happening. So that's a big change. I think the athletes have changed a ton in the sense of how impressive they are. They're faster, stronger, bigger, and I think they're still the same people we coached years ago, but we have social media to deal with now, and they're back when you coached in my early years. You got to agree, kids didn't call home every 20 minutes, 30 minutes. They leave practice, they're calling home. They're getting the stuff from mom and dad, and who knows what's being said. And then they're on social media so much that it's just such a difficult balance right now. I think of what's going on and protecting them and trying to protect your program as well. I guess those are a few of the things I think have changed. And I don't think the kids have changed that much, though. It's just their environment and what they're able to do and exposed to. I still think they respond to the same things, the same positive coaching and the same experiences. So,
Yeah. What did I not ask you?
I guess I want to say that the sport it's just been really, really good to a lot of people. And the one thing I find about volleyball more so than a lot of sports, just in conversations, is definitely at Division II, the willingness of the coaches to work together towards a common goal as far as scheduling. And I see it changing a little bit more at Division I. You just hear some stories of folks that have some coaches in their their staff, the coaches in their groups that are just unwilling to work. And I hate seeing that change, but money does do that. People are expected to win, but it is still, and I think it still remains one of those great sports where we share a lot, and people are willing to share their ideas and teach, and it's not not harboring all the information for yourself because you've got the right answer. And I've always loved that about it. It's everybody I've ever contacted has always been forthcoming and willing to teach you something, and you can learn from anybody. I mean, high school coaches come up with some really innovative things in their training and how they do things, and it's just really cool to go out to a game of any level and learn something. And I think that's what's unique about our sport is the willingness of people to share and take that information. I'm from that time period where we had no money to do anything. We didn't buy shoes for the kids, didn't buy practice gear. And this COVID has kind of exposed some of that, especially Division II, where private schools, the state schools are struggling for budgets. And the coaches are all kind of, fighting over, hey, we got to play this number of matches, that number of matches. And I'm like, hey, we got to appreciate every opportunity we have. I really do think that. And I think COVID has exposed that we like to think we're a necessity, that we're, the universities can't survive without us, but they can. And we've got to do whatever we can to make ourselves not expendable, losing the word here. We had to, like all spring, we had to record every hour that we were working to show that we were important to the process. And it's interesting how that's kind of slapped us back to reality. I think at all levels. Division I is seeing it too. I think the Power Fives may financially hurt worse than little Division IIs because of the money they're going to lose from football. So I think this is going to make us all work better, be more efficient, work together better, and hopefully get back to the old days where you did appreciate every day and every penny you got. You didn't have your hand out all the time saying, "Here, give me more," kind of thing.